today I'm sharing our pumpkin spice cheesecake muffins with the streusel topping. To start, we're going to add 1.5 cups of flour to our mixing bowl, then 3/4 of a cup of sugar. Next, we're going to add a teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Then we add a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. I have a video that has the recipe, and also I have a link to the blog that has the printable recipe and the cute little labels if y'all would like to check that out. I'll leave a link to that in the description as well as the card. Now that all of our dry ingredients are added in, we just need to mix them together well. Next, we add 1 egg, then 1/4 of a cup of melted butter. Next, we need 1.5 cups of pumpkin puree. Make sure this is puree and not the pumpkin pie filling. The last thing we add is a teaspoon of vanilla. Then we just mix the wet and dry ingredients really good until you can't see any more flour in it. And if you don't want to add the cream cheese filling or the streusel topping, you can just use the pumpkin muffin recipe. It is just a really good recipe all on its own. These muffins are so good. Even several days later, I just store mine in a container on the counter, and the texture of them is still so good. I'm always amazed at how well the texture is on these muffins. Next, we need to line our muffin tin. Then we fill the muffin cups up with our pumpkin mixture around 3/4 of the way full. I got around 18 muffins from this recipe. Now we need to make our cream cheese filling. So we need to add an 8-ounce block of softened cream cheese to the mixer and whip it up a little bit. Then we add a tablespoon of flour. Next is 3 tablespoons of sugar. Last, we add a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Then we whip that all together. May have to scrape the bowl a few times to get it all mixed in. Now we take our cream cheese mixture and add about a heaping teaspoon or so to the middle of each and every muffin. Then I like to press down on the cream cheese to try and get that mixture as much to the bottom as possible. That way you get some in every bite. Now I bake this in my convection oven at 300 degrees for 7 minutes. While that's baking, we need to make the streusel topping. So we start with a cup of flour, then we add a cup of brown sugar. Mine was really dark here, and if you don't like that molassesy flavor that you get from dark brown sugar, it would probably be better to use light brown sugar. Next, we add 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now we need to mix in our dry ingredients. We don't want to be able to see spots of flour or sugar. We want it all mixed in really good. Next, we add 1/2 cup of melted butter. Last, we add 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. We really like this vanilla here. We get ours at a local grocery store, but you can also buy that on Amazon, and I will leave a link to that in the description. Now mix all that in until it's kind of a crumbly texture. You could probably just cut in the butter and do that, but that is, for me, that's a lot messier. I always just find it's better to do it with my hands, and this is a lot less messy to do it this way. Now we're going to pull our muffins out of the oven and add the streusel topping to the top. This streusel recipe makes a lot, so you don't have to be sparing at all whenever you're adding this to your muffins. I like to cook my muffins part way before I add the streusel topping. The first time I made this, I just put it on and cooked it the full amount of time to cook the muffins, and they were little rocks. We didn't get to enjoy the streusel topping at all the first time I made it. So now I just add the streusel topping halfway through, and I'll show you one other thing I do as well so they don't turn into rocks. Whenever I put my muffins in to cook for the second half, I make sure that it is only on bake, not bake with the fan, and that helps the streusel topping to not get too hard. Now they're all done, and these are a little tricky to test at whether they're done or not with the cream cheese filling, so I find it's best to kind of just go in more at the side with your toothpick, and if that comes out clean with no batter on it, they're good, and they're all done. The recipe as well as a link to a printable recipe on my blog will be in the description, and we all wanted to thank you so much to everyone who watches the videos and likes and comments and subscribes and supports us through Buy Me a Coffee. We appreciate it so much. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye!